All right, hey, we've got some breaking weather news just coming off the wire here from the National Weather Service. That storm in northern Lee County now showing some rotation, and tornado warning has been issued effective until 6:15 for the northeastern part of Lee County. That would include areas around Pennington Gap and also in toward the Keokee area, Dryden area. It's moving northeast at about 30 miles per hour. So folks in northern Lee County need to be taking shelter immediately as this storm continues to move off to the northeast. Let's go ahead and show you what's going on now with our Power 5 Doppler radar. We'll show you the rotation signature here in just a moment, but let's zoom in a little tighter here and show you what areas are within that severe thunderstorm. You can see this kind of little hook echo right now on the Doppler radar. So this is kind of an area right here that we're being very watchful of for the possibility of a tornado. It's a radar indicated tornado. There is not a confirmed one, but you can of course let us know at WCYB.com/chime in or on our Facebook page whether or not you're seeing any kind of development regarding any tornado within that storm. But certainly folks in Pennington Gap need to be taking shelter immediately for the possibility of a tornado within this storm. We'll zoom in a little bit tighter here. I'll take off the lightning strikes and remove the little arc that I put on there regarding where that rotation seems most likely, and I will stop it and let you know that areas around Pennington Gap and Woodway, heading mainly north of Lee High School. So I would say that probably we don't have to worry about this storm necessarily producing a tornado in the Jonesville area, but residents of Pennington Gap, Virginia, do need to be taking shelter immediately with this storm as it continues to push off to the northeast at about 30 miles per hour. Let me see if we can put on the velocity here. And you can see right here where we've got these opposing areas of the red and the green. So right through here is where we are seeing the possible rotation that Doppler radar is indicating, or at least, sending the beam in there and showing how the particles of rain and so forth are moving either toward or away from the radar. And the red and the green opposing one another there show you where we could be looking at some rotation that might involve a possible tornado as it pushes off to the northeast at about 30 miles per hour. I'll take this off and we'll kind of do a storm track on it here for you and put the reflectivity back on. I'll pull back a little bit on this and give you a better vantage point. It's also extending up toward Dryden area and along Woodway Road, for example, and extending across the northern part of Lee County and also getting very close to the southeast border of Kentucky. So in Harlan County, for example, we would be looking at some of this storm pushing into the eastern, northeastern part of Harlan County again. But this tornado warning for Lee County is in effect until 6:15. So for about another half hour or so, we do have that severe thunderstorm, that tornado warning in effect. So folks in northern Lee County do need to be taking shelter immediately. The storm is moving to the northeast at about 30 miles per hour. And let's see if we can put a little storm track on this and show you where this storm will be heading over the next hour or so. It's kind of hard to do this with the weird configuration, but if we just kind of take this part of the storm right through here and push it off to the northeast at about 35 miles per hour, heading into southern portions of Wise County, should the rotation continue and require a extension of this warning into areas of southern and western Wise County. Looks like it might just stay to the west of Scott County, at least the more dangerous part of the storm, which would be right through here is where that rotation in that storm is being indicated by Doppler radar. But some of the towns and locations that would be impacted by this storm would be Keokee and Exeter, Deep Springs, Appalachia, Big Stone Gap, Blackwood, Powell Valley, and also Norton between now and about 6:15. So if you have friends, if you have relatives that live within this kind of cone where it is currently occurring near Pennington Gap, do be mindful that you might give them a call, give them a heads up, let them know that there is a tornado warning in effect. And even though the storm is not yet into Wise County, the rotation, should it continue, it would be necessary to upgrade or at least extend that tornado warning into portions of southern and southwestern portions of Wise County. So, for example, as you head up toward Appalachia, beyond the Keokee and Deep Spring areas of northern Lee County, it would be pushing into that part of Wise County as well. Now, regarding some safety tips that you can be preparing yourself for, and already should be doing so in northern Lee County, but the safest place to be during a tornado warning, the lowest level of your home. Interior room, try to put as many walls between you and your location, and avoid being near windows. Be away from glass that could break. You can see the green area is kind of located there on this demonstrating graphic, saying the green area would be the most safe place. You can see that looks like a bathroom there, with being underneath a stairwell, and also into the basement areas would be the safest place. Now, I know a lot of homes do not have basements and do not offer that, but you would just be in the lowest level, a hallway, perhaps a closet, an interior bathroom, and try to make your areas of your body that might be most susceptible to being caught with debris, covered perhaps with blankets, or even a baseball, not a baseball, but a bike helmet, even a baseball helmet for that matter, and also a pillow, maybe in the bathtub. But again, try to stay away from areas that might provide breakage of windows or mirrors or things like that, and avoid mobile homes. If you are in the path of the storm, hopefully you can have a designated shelter already in play that that you can take shelter and move to now before that storm moves in. But we are looking at the most dangerous part of the storm, kind of right near the Pennington Gap area of southwest of northern Lee County. Let me zoom in a little bit here and show you what we got going on. And meteorologist Ricky Matthews is joining me this evening as well. Now, Ricky, this storm does have kind of a classic signature as far as what it looks like on radar regarding the reflectivity, and as far as the velocity is concerned, I'll put the storm relative velocity on there. It looks like it may have lost a little bit of that shear that we were looking at a little bit ago.
Yeah, it's certainly been a storm that's kind of tried for a little bit and then got a little stronger. That's when the tornado warning was issued for this storm, and the Weather Service decided to go ahead and pull the trigger on that. But interesting, like right there, see right there, that's when the warning came out. And you can kind of see how the rotation looks like it's weakened just a little bit. And these storms do that over time. They'll cycle up and down over the course of, say, 15 to 20 minutes. And so even though the rotation may have weakened just a little bit there, doesn't mean that the risk is totally over. That
was at 5:37, so that was 12 minutes ago. Now we can put it, move it to the current time and show you that the shear, where we had the red and green, the opposing colors showing the wind direction within the storm kind of opposing one another. That was the indication of the rotation. And we seem to be losing a little bit. Still live there by, is that
Pugs, I think?
Pugs, I think that's how you say that.
Someone will correct us if we...
But that would be kind of where the rotation still is currently.
Yeah, and I think what we're going to see with this storm is going to continue to push off to the north and east and moving at roughly 30 miles per hour. So what I want to do is go ahead and put a storm track on this because there's a few communities in the path of where this storm is going to be going. So what I'm going to do is put a storm track on the area where the rotation is. So this is actually, we just got a brand new radar scan. So here's the latest scan in. And similar to what we were looking at before, still a little bit of a weak signature on this. But nevertheless, we're going to put a storm track on this, move it up to the north and east. So Deep Springs and Oriton, the next two communities kind of in the path, at least in Lee County. Then when we go further up, we'll be moving into parts of Wise County. And in fact, I think maybe we didn't, there they go. It finally kicked in. So Seminary United Methodist Church, one of the areas, if you're familiar with where that is, that's going to be the potential spot for where the storm will be moving into next. Calvary Church, basically in about a minute, heads up there. Deep Springs 5:55, Harvey around 6 o'clock, and Robinette Chapel around 6:05. So a lot of couple of roads out here as well. We'll put a label on for what highway this is. I think this is Highway 58. Yeah, as you go from Lee County, basically from the Dryden area, heading towards Big Stone Gap or Wise, those are some of the communities that you're going to run into, Dave. And then what we'll have to watch for, is to see if the Weather Service decides to extend this up into
and plus there might be even some hail with this as well. I don't know if you can put on that vertical integrated liquid product on there. We'll just see what the possibility is. It's I would say probably no larger than dime-sized hail with what this is looking like right now. But here near Dryden, for example, moving up toward Keokee. Now here we go. We could be looking at maybe some quarter-sized hail here kind of in the rural part of northern Lee County between Dryden and Keokee. Maybe some small hail here to the west of Duffield, right along Highway 58 as you're moving from Scott County into Lee County. But again, this storm is moving into right now into southwestern parts of Wise County. So we want to give a heads up to our viewers in Big Stone Gap. And again, if you know someone that may not be aware of the current weather situation, we would urge you to maybe give them a call on the cell phone. And now's a good time. Also, when we have these kind of events and you can get a warning that springs up really out of nowhere. I mean, you're right, this storm was kind of interesting looking as far as the velocity during its kind of inception as it began to develop in northeast Tennessee. But then we got that tighter rotation begin to develop. But these things can pop up just like that. And it's always good to have a number of ways to get severe weather warnings, whether it be tornado or severe or flash flood. And of course on television, we'll bring you these live reports, but you can also use your Storm Track 5 mobile app, absolutely free to download on your smartphone. And Ricky, also the NOAA Weather Radio, which is extremely useful to have in your home next to your bed, especially at night when you're sleeping and may not be aware of something that just kind of blows up out of nowhere like this one is right now in northern Lee County.
Happened to me. I was at my house, my weather radio went off, and then came on over here to help out. Dave, I want to go back to the radar and show a few things and get your thoughts on it as well. So one thing that's interesting here is we've got this area to the south, and I'll draw where that is, has kind of formed and now kind of it's going to be interacting with that northern cell. And think about it like a person spinning, right? If someone shoves that person spinning, they're going to disrupt them and knock them off balance. Same kind of thing can happen sometimes with these storms. As they interact with other storms, the rotation can weaken a little bit. And so we may see that interaction as some of the wind flow gets cut off by this storm.
Yeah, so that might be, here's kind of where we would still say the circulation rotation is right here near Dryden. Wouldn't you say that's about where it is?
Yeah.
But as far as the stronger winds aloft, now you got to remember the radar beam, we're looking at the Jackson, Kentucky
that's
relative velocity right now. We've got a number of radars as it was lower into Lee County. We were looking at the Morristown National Weather Service radar. This one's coming out of Jackson. So as the beam continues to go farther and farther away from the radar, it gets higher up into the atmosphere. So you're seeing some of the stronger winds right through here, and that rotation that might still be ongoing. But some of these winds may also, or some even tornadic winds can produce damage as well, and that's why we urge everybody in northern Lee County and heads up southwestern Wise County to be taking shelter in their safe place right now.
And let's kind of do another storm track on this, and we'll advance it off to the north and east once again. We should get a new radar scan here just any minute now. But I'm going to take it from basically Dryden north and east. This will be over about the next 25 to 30 minutes. And so these areas would be the ones that would be impacted over the next 30 minutes. Irondale 612, the Lonesome Pine Hospital around 6:15, Big Stone Gap 6:16, and Crackers Neck around 6:17. So those are kind of the heads up next in line for this storm. May not have the risk of producing a tornado when it gets into Wise County, but nevertheless, you're at least going to get a thunderstorm with a good amount of lightning too, and certainly some loud lightning. Those yellow strikes, those are the positive lightning strikes. Those are the loud ones that you hear whenever the storms move in. We can take a look at some of our cameras. I want to try to look at our camera at Big A Mountain or Keene Mountain. And the reason I want to do that is because those kind of look west towards Wise County. So there's Big A Mountain. Looks like the storm's probably just a little too far to the left. We'll try Keene. Nope, same thing there.
And even if that tornado warning is not continued, it very well might be a severe thunderstorm warning too as it comes into Wise County. So in either situation, just be aware. And you can see kind of how you're talking about these two little segments of the storm kind of merging a little bit right here. And that is where we have the heavier storms. We can get all clear for places like St. Charles and Pennington Gap. It looks like now we're seeing the bulk of this now pushing away from Dryden, but it's the northern extent around Keokee. There's Duffield, so it looks like this will stay west of Duffield. Here we are, Devil's Bathtub, that had the flooding not too many weeks ago, which this is not going to be a situation that's going to have to provide any concern, I don't think, for any significant flood threat. But definitely as you're heading up Highway 23, major thoroughfare here, heading from Lee County into Wise County up toward Big Stone Gap. And if it continues, it's going to kind of brush and just stay just to the west a little bit of High Knob, and then come up here toward perhaps Norton and also Wise within the next half hour to 40 minutes or so.
Got a little information from the Weather Service. We're communicating back and forth with them. They had a spotter report of a funnel cloud between Jonesville and Pennington Gap. The spotter said the funnel cloud never made contact with the ground.
Right.
And also kind of similar to what we were seeing on radar, the Weather Service saying the rotation does look weaker now than it did earlier when they issued that warning. Let's do a little reset, Dave, and we'll go out and show everyone what we've got going on. Because a lot of times in these events, we have one county under a warning and everyone else is like, hey, there's nothing happening where I am. So we've got one tornado warning in effect, and that's going to be for Lee County. That goes until 6:15 tonight. And still includes the Dryden community. Now, the rest of the area just kind of dealing with areas of general thunderstorm activity. What they've done is they updated that warning now and taken
much of Lee County out? Yeah,
a good amount of Lee County out. So actually Dryden now out of the warning, and now it's just kind of the Keokee area east of there as you get towards the Wise County line that's in that warning. But there's a couple more storms that I think are worth at least looking at on radar. One here in Hancock County. It's going to be pushing into the southernmost part of Lee County and also Scott County. That one is not as strong of a rotation as we saw earlier, but it's got a little bit there, and it's worth at least keeping our eye on in the Weather Center. And then another storm that showed a little bit of better rotation earlier as it was down toward Union County is now moving through Claiborne County. That one will kind of follow a similar track to this one that got tornado warned here in Lee County. This storm will be advancing towards the Jonesville area in about 45 minutes.
So even though the initial storm for the northern Lee County, there's that tornado warning. We got two more cells that we do need to keep an eye on as we go through the next half hour to 45 minutes to see whether the rotation that, like you showed, is fairly weak, but it just takes a couple of minutes for it to kind of wrap up and cause the bells and whistles to go off with the Doppler radar that indicate, well, the rotation now is sufficient enough to produce a possible tornado. So still have some rotation there with our wind shear product north near kind of heading toward the Ollinger area, Deep Springs area of northern Kentucky. But there are also other storm cells back west of us as well, which are in eastern portions of Kentucky toward the Cumberland Plateau, which do have some warnings with them, mainly west of Interstate 75. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. And there is a severe thunderstorm watch in effect for Harlan, Leslie, and Letcher counties, as well as the rest of Kentucky here that are shaded or is shaded in yellow. That watch is in effect until 10 p.m. this evening. Right now, as far as the Tri-Cities, no watch or anything, but we do have some cells developing south toward Cott County into Greene County. So these will continue to come up the valley, and we'll likely see new development, maybe not total widespread, encompassing all areas, but and these little storms can quickly become strong or even locally severe, which is something we'll have to keep an eye on.
Yeah, and for much of the Tri-Cities, as you said, it's rain-free, it's sunny, and not a whole lot going on, but still that one area of concern. Lee County, kind of the hot spot for storms this afternoon and over the past 30 minutes. So one storm there to the far west moving out of Claiborne County, heading into Hancock County and also into Lee County. The storm down south here, which I think is worth watching. One thing that doesn't concern me too much yet is that it only has a few lightning strikes with it.
Right.
But if we see an increase in lightning activity, that can sometimes be an indicator of a strengthening storm.
What's the velocity look like on that now?
I'll switch it over and show you. There you go.
So, I mean, it's definitely got, it's not necessarily significant rotation, but it looks like there might be a little bit of shear going on right there, just the southwest of Kyles Ford in northern parts of Hancock County.
And there's our warn storm still.
And it's heading up toward Wise County. Still, it's got some rotation with it. as it moves up through northeastern portions of Wise County. So like I said, this cell is continuing to push into southwestern parts of Wise County. So put on that safety graphic if you don't mind real quick, and we'll kind of give folks a little heads up on what you need to be prepared for. And it's always a good idea to have this kind of maybe posted on a wall or in a refrigerator or something during the severe weather season, so that the whole family is ready to take precautions to keep themselves or yourselves safe during a particular dangerous storm system like what we have going on in northern Lee County. But lowest level of your home or place of residence, in a place like a interior hallway or a bathroom, a hallway, try to put as many walls between you and the outside of the house, and stay away from windows. And if you have a lower level like a basement, that offers probably the best security or best place to stay safe during high winds, whether it's a possible tornado or just a strong thunderstorm that might have a severe thunderstorm warning that can produce wind damage that might be similar to a weak EF0 or EF1 tornado, because you get 60, 70 mile an hour winds with a thunderstorm. That's equivalent to what would be a weak tornado. So they can be dangerous, as we see typically this time of year. Storms pop up a lot during the afternoon, evening, and a lot of times we call them pulse-type storms, where they're just severe for a short period of time, and then they kind of dissipate a little bit. But there's kind of where you should be and have plans accordingly as the storm season continues to evolve as we go through the summer months.
One acronym we use sometimes, Dave, is duck. Downstairs, underneath something, cover your head, and keep away from pillows.
I like
it's
that.
An acronym that people like to remember acronyms sometimes.
Easy to remember that.
That's an easy
Absolutely.
way to do it. I'll switch you back over to the radar. They're trying to tell me something off camera, so I'll let you take it for a second.
All right, just go ahead and let me work on this for a little bit here. And put that into motion.
Yeah.
So, we'll. Okay.
In the control room, if you want to take that viewer picture anytime, feel free, and we'll see what it looks like here. But that storm continuing to push up towards Wise County, and really has kind of become combined with that storm to the south now.
And we're still seeing kind of this little extension right through here, where the circulation, or at least the shear, appears to still be somewhat intact, not as tight nor as strong as it was initially when that tornado warning was issued, when this storm was pretty close to Pennington Gap, kind of between Jonesville and Pennington Gap. And like you said, their storm spotter actually has indicated that there was a funnel cloud dropping from that storm when it initially the warning was initially reported, and we went on the air live with that.
There's the report.
That's about
funnel cloud estimated to be 40 to 50 yards wide, never in contact with the ground. That was near Pennington Gap earlier on 537, so a little while ago here. And here's where the storm is located now, further towards the north and east. One thing we can...
Down there looks pretty interesting still, doesn't it?
Down there in further south, yeah. Let me show you the velocity. So it's at least got some mid-level velocity.
All right.
Meaning the storm itself is trying to rotate. Low level doesn't look as strong with that one.
Doesn't necessarily mean that because it's showing rotation that a tornado always is going to drop from the storm. But
I think it's worthwhile at least putting a storm track on that one too. So let's put one on there from Kyles Ford, north and east. And I'll take it all the way towards Duffield and Clinchport here. So there's the storm track for this one. Kyles Ford Baptist Church around 605, Willis 609, Genesis Store around 620, and Wolf School around 631. I think we've got our pictures in if we want to take those and show you what we're looking at here. This one comes from, Dave, I can't see, I'll let you read that.
That's Belinda Baker from Duffield, Virginia. That picture looks to be, some ominous clouds. I don't necessarily see a funnel cloud in that picture, but certainly you can get a feel for. Here's an interesting shot here. This from Pennington Gap, and so you can see the lowering of the cloud base. I mean, that looks like we could be looking, if we hadn't the buildings in the way there might be a funnel cloud that we would see from that.
a wall cloud or something
Yeah.
too, perhaps, or at least kind of the steps of getting a tornado there. That's a really interesting picture.
Yeah, it is a good one. I thank Connie Garrett of Pennington Gap for sharing that picture with us. I mean, we can be thankful that funnel cloud, if that it didn't touch down, that we are aware of. Maybe we can't confirm that it did not entirely, but at this point, at least the storm spotter that reported that funnel cloud did not indicate that it made contact with the ground. So that would be some good news out of this, but we're not out of the woods yet, because that tornado warning continues for northern Lee County until 6:15. And these storms here also do bear watching from Pennington Gap. This would be coming up toward Blackwater, I believe, in the rural part of Lee County. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind here. We're near Kyle's Ford. We've seen some increase in lightning strikes like you were talking about, where we just had maybe one or two within a 10-minute period. Now we've seen several more added to that. So perhaps some indication that that storm is strengthening a little bit.
I can do a query and tell you, so about 4 strikes in the past about 10 minutes or so with that storm.
I mean, that's not a ton, but it's
but more than we had, yeah, for sure. And then that storm further south and west, regardless of what this storm does in terms of rotation or anything, it certainly will have the potential to at least produce some heavy rainfall through the area of southwestern and central Lee County, from the Lee County Airport north and east along 421 heading into Jonesville. Those will be the areas where we'll be watching for the potential of another thunderstorm coming through that area there. Further towards the south, as we go into Greene County, we're watching a couple more clusters of showers and isolated storms firing up. That one's basically right to the east of exit 30, an exit a lot of people take to get into the Greenville area. So that's going to be moving up towards Baileyton and eventually kind of hugging the Bays Mountain Range as it heads towards Kingsport. And further towards the south, some more additional showers and storms popping up there. Pretty similar to what we thought would happen this afternoon. We'd have some scattered showers and storms that pop up, kind of isolated and increasing coverage through the late afternoon. A small tornado risk, and so far we've only had one tornado warning.
Yeah, I mean, even though I was looking at the percentage chance of tornadoes on the Storm Prediction Center page, we were not even in the 2% risk of tornadoes here, but that really doesn't matter. I mean, they can develop regardless of the risk potential that is assessed and put out by the Storm Prediction Center. It does look like the instability and the ingredients in play for severe weather, more widespread severe weather, will be staying to the northwest of the Tri-Cities into portions of eastern and northern Kentucky. But we're seeing these little discrete storms develop, and they can develop rapidly. They can produce some hail. Right now it looks like hail would probably be no larger than quarters with these storms, probably smaller than that. But as we pointed out, several of those storm cells that have moved from Hancock County and are now moving to Lee County, and the one that's in northern Lee County moving into Wise County, they are at least showing some indication to rotate. And at this point, the only storm being warned for is the one that's now in northern portions of Lee County, but is moving up toward the Big Stone Gap region of Wise County. There's another shot of a pretty good little picture there, Ricky.
From Pennington Gap a little earlier.
So definitely some lower clouds. Doesn't necessarily look like a funnel cloud right there, but
something that would catch my attention. Something that would catch my
scary
attention.
enough, exactly.
Yeah. Let's see if we can pull up our Kingsport camera. Now I know this is going to be way far west of way far east of where the storm is, but sometimes with these cameras you can get like a structural shot, and I'm just curious to see.
Especially since it's
there's
pointing
dark
that
skies.
direction. Yeah.
So we look down East Stone Drive. So
That's looking west, right, toward that direction. So it's sunny right now here on East Stone Drive, Ricky, but you can see the storm clouds that have been building with those storms in Hancock County and parts of Hawkins and Lee County as well.
And we'll take another gander at our Big A mountain camera and our Keene mountain camera just to see if we've got any better view of those storms. And they are still kind of off to the left of where that image is there.
Right.
There it looks like we're
a
getting
little bit
closer.
right there. Yeah, you can see some of the storm beginning to push into the camera view here from Big A Mountain in Buchanan County.
Okay. We'll go back to the radar here and kind of give you a wide shot of what we've got at this hour. So 3 little thunderstorms, 1 tornado warning. That goes for about another 5 minutes. And then after that, all of our warnings will have expired. So let's do kind of a reset here. Once again, at 6:10, this tornado warning still remains in effect for Lee County for about another 5 minutes. We've got couple clusters of showers and storms, mainly across Southwest Virginia and especially Lee County, that are catching our attention, but especially this one that the Weather Service has issued the tornado warning for. Haven't got any update recently.
There's still some pretty active lightning strikes. What's the velocity showing right now?
Let me, the velocity is what you want?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll switch it over to that. There you go.
Certainly not as interesting a look to the velocity as, let's say, we had when this tornado warning was issued around 6:40 or so, or I'm sorry, 5:40 this afternoon.
But and the other interesting thing, Dave, we talked about the lightning with the other storm and how that one was increasing a little bit.
Right.
I'm kind of noting a decrease in lightning with this storm over the past 5 to 10 minutes.
What about the cell that's just west?
The one.
That's kind of increasing.
The one further south?
Yeah.
This one, okay.
That one and then one to the west as well. There's two of them there that have kind of shown signs of increasing as far as the lightning frequency is concerned.
Yeah, going up a little bit on that one near Kyle's Ford. That one moving in toward the Fairview Road area and then eventually moving into Scott County. The Weather Service has put a strong thunderstorm alert on this storm to kind of give you the heads up. There could be some 40 to 50 mile per hour winds with this, which aren't exactly considered severe criteria, but are still strong enough to catch your attention if you are outside or standing near a window, and can still bring down some trees in many spots and weak trees.
If you just think about how many, I mean, we're blessed with a lot of trees. That's a good thing, but in stormy weather, it can be not such a good thing because they're just, be honest, a lot of trees that may be weaker and weakened for whatever reason. And like you say, a 40 or 50 mile an hour wind gust can knock down a large section of a tree. And if it's got poor root system or the ground is saturated, you can actually uproot a tree with 40, 50 mile an hour winds. But the criteria is 58 mile per hour winds or greater to be estimated by radar or clocked on an anemometer before a severe thunderstorm warning is issued. But even strong thunderstorms can do some minor damage typically, but nonetheless damage nonetheless, as we have seen time and time again with summertime storms around our neck of the woods.
I put our hail tracker on here because I think there's probably some small hail with this.
Right,
we don't really have the best ingredients to get hail going today, but there could be some small, maybe pea-sized hail or up to maybe penny-sized hail with this. Severe criteria is 1 inch, and the reason that's used is because that's kind of the size out of some studies they've found that starts to break windows, starts to cause damage to your cars. As penny-sized hail to pea-sized hail, it certainly sounds loud as it bangs on your car.
Makes a lot of racket.
But most of the time it doesn't break those windshields, and so that's kind of why they use the 1 inch criteria for severe hail. But maybe a little bit of that moving into the northern portion of Scott County here, near the Tito and Harvey communities, so Verde, and eventually, if this holds together, areas near Devil Bathtub, we'll have to keep an eye on this as it moves off towards the east. I'm pretty sure the Weather Service is going to let this warning expire. They haven't given us any indication to the contrary in our chat room here with them. So I think they're confident enough that this warning is going to be allowed to expire. It'll be interesting to see if they issue a severe thunderstorm warning for this due to the threat of some winds as it moves off towards the east, though. In fact, the storm's pretty much out of the warning now.
I mean, the Corvet's already starting to push into areas here around Cracker Neck, section of Big Stone Gap, and Highway 23, obviously, here from Lee County up into Wise County. Not a good drive at this point in time, so you just may want to avoid travel as the storm continues to move up into Big Stone Gap and through Wise County. But again, as Ricky pulls back a little bit there on radar, you can see that the amount of real estate covered by these scattered storms is pretty widely scattered and confined in large number here to areas of Scott, Wise, and Lee County. Kind of some increasing coverage here in parts of Greene County, heading up toward, let's say, Fall Branch, Geraldstown, from south parts of Greene County up toward the northern end of Greene County. But at this point in time, those storms are not being warned for, and perhaps they will not, but certainly the storm that warning that just expired, correct? It has now expired. That will allow, I guess, I'm assuming that we'll just have to wait and see if a severe thunderstorm warning is issued, but it was not replaced immediately after that warning expired with a severe thunderstorm warning.
So that kind of tells me that I don't think they're going to
I think you're
with
right.
this storm. But, you know, all the storms in the area continue to at least need our attention through the next little bit, and it's a good reason to continue to watch and stay alert through the rest of the evening hours. And I would say at least through the next hour or two, because that'll kind of be our prime window for any additional storms to turn strong to severe. Once this line here to the west day, which look at how many warnings it's got on it all the way up into Ohio. Once, let me turn the lightning off and I'll give you a better bearing of where this line of storms is. So right through here is what we're talking about. Once that moves off towards the east, we'll see a much lower severe weather risk, because that's the actual frontal
kind of loop this and let folks see how the individual, the line is pushing east, but the individual storm cells are kind of pushing off to the northeast. So this might be kind of the direction we would look for any stronger severe storms to kind of push back in from the west, maybe, you know, near the Tennessee-Kentucky border. That activity would be poised more likely to push in than, say, some of these storms here, which are again, the line's pushing it, but the individual cells are kind of pushing off to the northeast. And the real volatile weather, Storm Prediction Center was, you know, right on target as far as indicating a, you know, moderate risk, enhanced risk also for severe weather this afternoon, this evening across portions of Michigan, Ohio, into northern portions of Kentucky. But there is a severe thunderstorm watch in effect for our eastern counties of Kentucky, of Hardin, Leslie, and Letcher counties until 10 o'clock this evening. I think the threat overall, Ricky, don't you think, will not be lasting maybe that long?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think perhaps what we should do now, once the warning's expired, is why don't I let you kind of walk through Future Track here over the next little bit, and we'll kind of give people a heads up of what we should expect over the next couple of hours.
Yeah, that'd be fine. Let's do that. Here is our HRRR forecast model. Hasn't necessarily done a great job of initializing, we call it, and you know, if it doesn't place the storms in the correct place to begin with, sometimes it has the model is in error that may not necessarily reflect exactly how it's going to come. But it is at least keeping an eye on this activity in eastern portions of Kentucky and extending down toward the Cumberland Plateau of Tennessee, and you can see how that's going to be playing out between now and midnight. The overall intensity of the showers and storms probably will weaken after 9, 10, 11 o'clock tonight. By 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, that cold front is going to be pushing through. So I think most of our rain is going to be out of here before we get up in the morning. And I also think the threat of severe weather is going to be over before most people go to bed. And that's kind of a good thing. I mean, if you go to bed at 8 or 9 o'clock, maybe not so, but I think beyond 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock, we're going to start to see maybe midnight. Let's just go say through midnight. That's when the opportunity for stronger storms will be more likely. And like we've seen this afternoon into the early evening hours, that doesn't necessarily indicate everybody's going to see one of these stronger storms. So the likelihood that we'll see the weather be pushing off to the east in the morning is pretty great. There's our cold front. Notice by 2 p.m. still has some clouds hanging out over top of us. Winds are going to be out of the northwest behind this cold front, and then we can show you that we do expect mostly sunny skies to return during the afternoon, and then with the less humid air coming in tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow night, we'll see clear skies into Friday, and the weather itself is looking very pretty, actually, for several days. In fact, your planner for tomorrow is showing that highs are going to be only around 80 in the Tri-Cities, more clouds before lunch, less clouds in the afternoon. And then as we head through your 7-day forecast, I can show you that the overall trend for the hot weather we've seen the past several days is going to be eliminated from the forecast, with highs really only reaching the upper 70s to low 80s, not only tomorrow, but again on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I think eventually it will turn a little bit more humid, but certainly not as hot as it has been in recent days. And temperatures at night could actually drop down into the 50s to around 60 as we go through many mornings in the upcoming 7 days. So we'll start to see that nice, comfortable summer weather move in tomorrow. And Ricky, it looks like it's going to stick around for a while. Kind of a little treat, but again, that kind of treat doesn't last long, and eventually we will see some of the warm, humid weather return later next week with some increasing chances of scattered showers and thunderstorms.
Yeah, Dave, let's, I went back to the radar here just for a second because we've got about 10 minutes left in our newscast.
Okay.
And if it's okay with you, you want to just fill it through the end here?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, that works for me.
Let's
So
keep an eye on those storms that
Yep.
are moving through Scott and Lee and Wise County right now.
I agree with that for sure. So let's go back to that one in Wise County because regardless of a tornado threat, look at the lightning has picked back up. We talked about that, how it cycles up and down, right? And so it did just that and kind of increased a little bit in its lightning intensity. I'll do a query on here and show you how many lightning strikes over the past 15 minutes and about 20 strikes there.
So that was about 6 or
yeah.
so the last time we showed that.
Right. And, you know, that's nothing in terms of like, sometimes we get storms with 200 to 300 lightning strikes per minute, but that's when they're really lifting up that air. And usually a day we have a little bit higher chance for hail too, because to get that lightning, you got to have those ice crystals hitting against each other. But certainly it's a storm that, especially after we had a tornado warning, a lot of people are going to be kind of weary about as it continues to push off to the north and east. So we'll do another storm track on this, still moving about 30 miles per hour. I'm going to put the leading edge on here. In fact, let me do a different storm track since it's gotten a little bit wider. Let me draw it up to the north and east here at around 30. So there you go. High Knob Rec area, 626, heading into Glades Wildlife Management area, 632. Coburn, 642. The Banner community around 648. And Fairview School, which is getting into, I believe that's Dickinson County there, we'd be going up into, around 657.
Right there would be Dickinson County, also getting probably, if it holds together, eventually into Russell County, not within that hour time frame necessarily that you just storm tracked, but there are other storm cells that do bear watching in southwestern parts of Scott County now. There's Duffield. This would be definitely over rural parts of Scott County, but there is the New Melody Church, and also we've got, what school is that, Ricky?
That is Wolf School.
Wolf School.
Wolf School, Purchase Church around 637. Norton Chapel 642, Clinchport 645, Natural Tunnel around 646,
so we're pushing
and the
over
Rye
this way.
Cove community at 652 as that one moves through Scott County. And let's do a little analysis on that one too. And we'll show you, it's still got a little rotation there,
right
Dave, but not incredibly strong low-level rotation.
No, but that's kind of how the one that did get warned for in Lee County kind of started out, looking with just some modest mid-level rotation. And then it just, for a brief period when it was near Pennington Gap, when we got those pictures, that's where it tightened up, got worthy of a tornado warning. And then, as soon as that happened, we kind of went down to a weaker rotation almost immediately. About as fast as it happened, it kind of lost some of that intense rotation just about as quickly as it developed.
Yeah, we got a little more information, just came in from the Weather Service. They reached out to the Lee County Dispatch. No reports of damage from that storm as it moved through. So it sounds like that funnel cloud that we had never made contact with the ground, and thankfully none of the stronger winds associated with that storm touched down. But the thing about tornadoes, once they touch down, it can cause a good amount of damage in a short amount of time. So we're thankful that nothing came out of that storm there. Further south, we'll give you another little look at some of the storms here. And once this gets past Bowles Gap, I'm going to try to pull up our volunteer speedway camera and see what we can see with this storm. But this one's developed here. It's moved out of Cott County and now moved into Greene County, advancing off to the north and east. So Baileyton area will be the next in line for this. And I'll put a storm track on this storm too and advance it off to the north and east. That one's going to take you towards Tuslum, 630, Baileyton around 643, Geraldstown around 648, Fall Branch 657, Blair Gap 701, and Colonial Heights around 711. Now this storm not severe, but capable of producing some 30 to 40 mile per hour winds, some heavy rainfall, lightning, and also the potential for maybe a little bit of localized street ponding and flooding in some of those
and the thing to notice also is how discrete these little cells are. I mean, if it goes up this corridor that you just did a track for, might stay south of Interstate 81, miss Baileyton, but hit areas near Greenville, for example, up toward Newmansville and Geraldstown. Okay, and that storm is going to be moving right through the heart of Greene County. Again, like you mentioned, Ricky, the storm is not being warned for. Most likely not severe at this point in time, but the nature of these cells is, like we say, they kind of pulse up. They might briefly become severe, and then they might pulse down, and we'll see a storm develop somewhere nearby, perhaps an outflow boundary from a storm that kind of collapses on us, and it can kind of initiate new development that wasn't there in just a few minutes ago. So it does appear that at this point in time, the cells moving through eastern portions of Tennessee at this juncture are not severe. We will see this play itself out all summer long, and knowing people that have lived here for so long, that you realize that they can become severe very quickly, and not that we see a lot of tornado warnings. And we were talking about this, Ricky, not too long ago, about how we went through kind of a spell where we had a lot of tornado warnings, some years ago, and then here recently we've had very few. So
right.
We kind of go through cycles in that department, it seems like, too.
I've got a few more pictures that have come in to us at WCYB.com/chime in. I want to cycle through, and I'm going to slide over here and kind of advance these pictures. And so this one comes in from Scott County. This is likely looking at a distance from those storms, or at those storms. That's a sunset from a prettier day. So let me get you the other stormy picture there. This one I thought was interesting. This gentleman saying this was some of the rotation passing over his house. Appreciate him sending a video too.
I'm standing in front. Where's this at? Is that Penny?
This is from the Jasper section of Lee County.
Okay.
You can definitely see the heavy rainfall coming down in that picture. And some lowerings of the clouds. Hard to tell exactly, kind of when it's right over top of you, what you're looking at sometimes. There's some of the thunderstorm clouds that are moving through the area at this hour.
I do know that if I was underneath that mass of what looked like rotating clouds and I knew there was a tornado warning, I think I would be taking it seriously, and I'm sure everybody did, and we appreciate folks sharing this. There's another awesome looking shot.
This one was interesting to me. It could be some scud clouds, some lowering of the clouds there, but this is from the Stickleyville community. And then these are some of the pictures that we showed you a little earlier in the newscast as the storm moved through Pennington Gap. This picture right here was the one that kind of caught all of our attention.
Right.
That one, I think, perhaps one of the best pictures coming out of this, because you can kind of look to the yellow building is there on the left, and then the brick building right above there. That's where it looked like there was a little bit of a lowering extending down from the base of the storm, and potentially giving us an indication there may have been a bit of rotation there, or a wall cloud, or at least something that bared watching. So we'll go back to the radar and show you what's happening at this hour. Let me get that moving into motion, and I will show you we've got basically 2 or 3 thunderstorms here across parts of Southwest Virginia, mainly into parts of Lee County and Scott County. We also have another batch of storms further south as you go into the Greenville community. That is worth watching as it pushes off to north and east. None of these severe at this hour, meaning they're not producing strong gusty winds of enough magnitude to trigger a warning, but certainly storms that they're watching. And then further towards the west, Dave, our next line of storms pushing east.
So there's an area of severe storms right now. Obviously, they have warnings with them along Interstate 75 near London, and that extends up toward the Cincinnati area. And some storms also, as you mentioned, not necessarily being warned for, but west of Knoxville, southwest of Knoxville toward Crossville. So we'll be keeping an eye on those storms and showers as we go through the next several hours, and urge you to kind of keep abreast of the weather situation, as well as these storms could briefly become severe as they move across our area, and encourage you to download our Storm Track 5 mobile app. It's absolutely free. You can take it with you, obviously, wherever you go, because you got your phone wherever you're going, and you got the interactive radar, and you've got severe weather alerts that can come across there as well. And other ways, obviously, from TV here with Ricky and I. But also, you can upload your pictures at WCYB.com/chime in. Of course, we love the pictures because that tells the weather story. A lot of times, you all help us tell the weather story, because we can talk all day long about here's the rotation, here's the area that looks like it could be producing large hail or what have you. But then when you send in your pictures and your video, you can help us confirm what we're talking about. And so we appreciate that. But we always encourage you to do so when it is safe to do so. But right now, we are going to throw it back to NBC Nightly News.
Yeah, we've got about 10 seconds. We'll toss it over to there. But one last look at the radar. Don't forget, you can check this out anytime on our website at WCYB.com. Thanks for joining us tonight for News 5 at 6. If any more warnings are issued, we'll, of course, break back into programming.
Y'all have a good night.